It was 3 a.m. when he stumbled out of his bed, heart racing, hands shaking. His head felt like it was splitting open, but his body craved it. That next fix, just enough to make the noise inside his head stop, just enough to silence the chaos. He looked around his tiny, dimly lit apartment. It was a mess, garbage scattered on the floor, unopened mail piling up in the corner, a broken lamp flickering in the corner of the room, a reflection of his life. For years, this was his routine. Wake up, get high, numb the pain, repeat. He had once been full of potential, dreams, ambition, hope. But those dreams had faded into a haze of addiction. He had lost friends, jobs, relationships. Everything that once mattered had slipped through his fingers. He sat on the floor, staring at the walls, trying to remember what it felt like to believe in something. He had nothing left but the urge to escape, and even that was slowly fading, replaced by the numbness of despair. In that moment, it felt like there was no way out. But in the deepest dark, there is always a flicker of light. And sometimes, you can't see it until the dark feels unbearable. Here's the first lesson. Your darkest hour is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your transformation. When you're in the depths of addiction, despair, or self-doubt, it's hard to imagine that light is even possible. But remember, the night is always darkest, just before dawn. Sometimes, life pushes us to the brink to get our attention, to force us to confront the parts of ourselves we've been running from. The real story starts when you decide that your pain will not define you. He woke up the next morning, the familiar pain in his chest and the weight of his decisions hanging over him. His apartment felt colder now, emptier. He sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the floor. The thought of continuing like this day after day, year after year, crushed him. But then a memory surfaced. A conversation he had with his younger sister a few months back. "You're not the person you think you are," she had said. "You're more than this. You just have to see it." At the time, he had brushed it off. But now, those words echoed in his mind. What if she was right? What if there was still something inside him that was worth saving? His mind raced. He tried to quiet the noise, the urges that had kept him locked in this cycle for so long. But for the first time in a long while, he felt the faintest pull of hope. A small, quiet voice inside telling him, "You can still change." He didn't know how, but he knew he couldn't keep doing this. Something had to give. And here's the second lesson. Change starts the moment you refuse to accept your current reality as permanent. He didn't change overnight. He didn't find immediate answers. But the moment he acknowledged that he could do better, that was the first step. Sometimes, the first breakthrough isn't a grand gesture. It's a moment of realization, a quiet decision to move forward, even when you don't know how. It's not about having all the answers. It's about deciding that this moment doesn't have to define you. The first week was the hardest. He tried to stay sober, but the urges were unbearable. His body screamed for relief. His mind begged him to give in. He called his sister, his voice shaky. "I don't know if I can do this," he confessed. "You can," she said gently. "But you have to be willing to face the pain. You can't outrun it anymore. It's time to confront it." He hung up the phone, overwhelmed, facing the pain, letting go of his addiction, letting go of the comfort it provided, even though it was a prison. He went to a support group that week. At first, he felt like a fraud. He didn't belong there, not with the other people who seemed to have their lives together. But something shifted in the room. A man, much older than him, shared his story. He had been sober for over a decade, and the man's voice, full of pain and wisdom, struck him deeply. "You won't be the same person at the end of this," the man said, "but you can be better." That was the moment he realized he wasn't alone. And here's the third lesson. You can't heal in isolation. There is no shame in needing help. There is no strength in pretending you're okay when you're not. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to ask for support. Because recovery, whether from addiction or anything else, is a community effort. You don't have to walk the road alone. The right people will help you carry the weight when it feels unbearable. He spent the next few months grappling with his identity. Who was he without the addiction? Without the cycle of highs and lows? He began to replace old habits with new ones. He walked every morning, even when he didn't feel like it. He wrote in his journal, letting out the pain he had buried for years. Some days, it felt like the weight of his past was too much to carry. He questioned everything. Who am I without this? What do I have left? But then, he started seeing small changes. His thoughts were clearer. His body was healing. He felt stronger. And then, a breakthrough, he was able to look in the mirror and not feel shame. He saw a man who had fallen, yes, but also a man who was rising again. And here's the fourth lesson. Healing is not linear, but it is always worth the fight. It would have been easy for him to give up, to fall back into the old habits, to seek comfort in what he knew. But real growth comes when you push through the hardest part, when you fight to find your true identity, not the one that addiction gave you, but the one that has always been there, waiting to emerge. The battle may feel long, but every step forward is a victory. Months passed, and the old habits became harder to reach. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but his perspective shifted. He saw life in a new light. He started volunteering at a rehab center, speaking to others who were struggling. His story resonated with people. He began to see himself not as someone broken, but as someone who could offer hope. One day, after a session, a young man came up to him. "You saved my life," he said, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I thought I was alone, but your story gave me hope." For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose that wasn't tied to a substance. He had something bigger to live for. And here's the fifth lesson. Your story can be the light someone else needs. The pain you've endured, the battles you fought, they don't just shape you, they shape others. By sharing your journey, you create a ripple effect. You become the living proof that healing is possible, that change is within reach. Today, he's not just sober. He's an advocate, a speaker, an inspiration to others. He shares his story at conferences, in schools, to anyone who will listen. He tells them that addiction doesn't define them, but overcoming it will. He doesn't hide the truth of his past. He uses it to inspire others. He's found his purpose. His journey from addiction to inspiration wasn't easy, but it has been worth every step. And here's the final lesson. You are never too broken to inspire others. Your story, no matter how painful, has power, and that power can change lives. Sometimes, you don't realize how much your voice matters until someone else hears it and says, "Because of you, I kept going." Call to action. What part of this story resonated with you? What battle are you fighting right now? Share your journey in the comments. Your words might be the spark someone else needs. Subscribe to Motivational Dose for more stories of transformation and hope. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story of strength and resilience. Share this video with someone who's struggling right now. Maybe your story will give them the strength to begin their own turnaround. Remember, you can rise from anything, you can heal from anything, and you can inspire others no matter where you've been.